on YouTube, youtube.com/Hoopsville. Most of that information scrolling at the bottom of your screen if you happen to be watching us live. If you're listening to the podcast or watching us on demand, thank you for doing that as well. We certainly appreciate it. We are on Instagram as well, at D3Hoopsville, though we don't interact during the show. A little bit challenging to do all of that at the same time. Lots to talk about tonight because we have tons of postponements and cancellations coming in. The list of schools that are taking a pause is ever growing. It includes number one, Hope in women's basketball. They are on a pause right now, maybe until midweek, it appears. Brandeis men's basketball. Looks like they're going to lose the opening 2 weekends of the UAA conference schedule at this point. Tonight there are 10 or 11 postponed games in men's basketball, one canceled game. In women's, we have 10 postponed and 4 cancellations so far that we know of. There may be others that we just haven't gotten into our system yet. The Omicron virus or variant of the COVID virus is aggressively going through college sports. Not overly surprising considering we got a hint of this about 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. And of course, everybody then went home for the holidays, and we're going to probably see this now for the next few weeks. One would hope it will die down and we will get back to, quote unquote, our new normal, or at least a slowdown of sorts for the end of January into February and, of course, into the March tournaments. But we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. But there are significant teams taking breaks. Twitter was a flurry today of teams looking for games, teams of games that are being postponed. I'm trying to double check because we just had a few as I was looking to get on air. The Centennial Conference, I know last night had 3 games that got postponed, 2 of them in men's basketball. Now more. For example, Gettysburg just tweeted out that their game against Bryn Mawr that was scheduled for Saturday has been postponed. They don't know if they'll make it up as of yet. Let's see here. Where is it? I'm trying to find the other one I just saw, and I've already lost it. Carnegie Mellon men's basketball in search of game for the weekend of the 13th and 14th of January. The women's game between Geneseo and New Paltz that was scheduled for the 7th of January has been postponed. I mean, that's not just tonight's stuff. We're talking about, this coming weekend stuff. Spectator policies also in place. There are a number of schools that are shutting out spectators for the foreseeable future, probably to the end of the month. There are some who've decided they will no longer serve concessions and maybe still have fans on site. A doubleheader between Suffolk men and women and I think that's Wentworth Leopards. That has been postponed. Coming up, I think, Saturday. It's rampant right now. Now, at least we're playing basketball. At least we've got games to still talk about, results to talk about, things that have happened around Division III, and that's always good. But it's tough. There's a lot going on in Division III and Division II and Division I on top of that. So it's going to be a topic of conversation. Later on in the show, we will talk to 2 assistant commissioners of conferences in Division III. 2 of 42 is not a large sample size, I realize, but they do have 2 different perspectives based on conference procedures. Again, some conferences are letting schools make up games and trying to get to the end. Other conferences have had a policy in place that if your team cannot play because of COVID, you basically forfeit the game, which means it's a non-contest in the eyes of the NCAA, meaning the game is null and void, but in the eyes of the conference, they're at least stating who was not, who didn't have to cancel because of COVID, and those games, they're receiving essentially a winning conference play. It's just for conference standings and it's for the playoffs. And there are conferences that have started out that way, but now conversations have changed that, and those forfeitures are going away to some degree. It's and there's every other variation of that. So we'll have at least two on that we've gotten so far. We'll have James Wagner from the Colonial States Athletic Conference here on the East Coast, and we'll have Stacy Ledoux from the Heartland Collegiate Athletic Conference from the central part of the country. We'll get their takes on things and just the challenges it is to be in a conference. Also coming up, we will talk to Juli Fulks, the head coach at Transylvania women's basketball. Her team ranked 4th in the nation, highest they've ever been ranked. We'll talk to her about what it's like to be on campus right now with her team and HCAC play. We'll also talk to Brian Niemuth, the head coach of Simpson women's basketball. He'll talk about his 6th ranked squad and how the Storm are playing, and big games already in ARC competition. And then on the men's side, we'll talk to Williams head coach Kevin App. He'll join us to talk about the Eafs. Just how good are the Eafs this year? Undefeated so far. Obviously, big games coming up in NESCAC play, if they're able to be played. Williams has had some troubles with their games as well, as a lot of teams have. We'll talk to him about their challenges, but also how good they are. So that's all coming up ahead. Quickly, in men's basketball so far this week. So far. Not a lot of results because, again, a lot of cancellations and delays. But Oshkosh, the 4th-ranked team in the country, lost to Whitewater in overtime yesterday, 82-78. We should point out Platteville got past Eau Claire, 60-46. Of course, Platteville number 2 in the country. But Oshkosh takes its 2nd loss of the season to Whitewater, and it's just going to be a show of just how tough that WIAC is. Remember, we talked to Platteville men's basketball coach Jeff Gard on the show on Monday, and we talked about how challenging that all is. Marietta got past Muskegon by 20. Wheaton got past North Park by 25. Christopher Newport was supposed to play Marymount. That game has been called, or we'll see if they make it up. Roanoke was supposed to play Ferrum, by the way. That game has been called. We'll see if they make it up. Maryville's game against Brevard, also to be made up. Other games that took place. La Crosse defeated Stout 89-85. Stout has started strong this season, but I think that's their 2nd loss in a row, if memory serves. Johns Hopkins got past Dickinson, and it was not close. I was keeping track of that game while calling a game myself. Hopkins won 82-48. Mount Union got a forfeit game over Baldwin Wallace. Swarthmore got past McDaniel, 78-37. That game was close for about 11 minutes. And then it wasn't. Mary Hardin Baylor got past Concordia, Texas in a barn burner, 111-101. I think that was back on Monday, if memory serves. Heidelberg got past John Carroll in a forfeit game. John Carroll's now lost 2 conference games due to forfeits. And from what I'm gathering, they're fully vaccinated from what I understand. So just struggling with this virus. Wesleyan, we mentioned this on Monday, getting past Amherst in triple overtime. They've got Tufts this weekend along with Bates. And the WPI got past Springfield. Oswego, we mentioned their big win over St. Lawrence. Case Western got past Hilbert. They'll take on Carnegie Mellon this weekend. Amherst lost to Wesleyan 94-85 in triple overtime. As we mentioned that already. They got Middlebury and Williams. That was the point of me bringing that up. DeSales got past FDU Florham 102-63. And other games that are of note. So, there are games being played, so there's still stuff to talk about, just not as much as we would like to talk about it. On the women's side of the ledger, I lost track of where that update was. There it is. Again, Hope has game against Alma, and I believe this week their game against Illinois College is off as well. I don't believe they'll play Olivet this weekend either. Actually, their game against Illinois College is off because it was today. I don't believe they'll play Olivet this weekend either, as Hope women's basketball is on a pause. I think the best that they're looking at is midweek next week. I heard the MIA was getting together today to discuss how to handle all of these changes and all of that. I don't know what the answer is as of now. Christopher Newport lost its game against Mary Baldwin. They've got St. Joseph and Pratt coming up this weekend. Amherst hasn't played in forever. They've got Middlebury and Williams to start off NESCAC play after not having played in quite some time. They're only played 7 games so far. We'll talk to Transylvania about losing the Earlham game and whether they can play a defiance. Simpson got past Buena Vista. We'll talk about that, 86-38. Whitewater got past Oshkosh in overtime, 67-63 in a battle of top 20 teams. They've got top 10 Eau Claire coming up. So Whitewater with a top 20 matchup last night, and then we'll have a top 10 matchup this weekend. And more results. Nothing that jumps out of the page as being shocking necessarily. Though Wheaton did lose to North Park in women's basketball as well. So lots of games taking place, not as many as we're used to, and lots of games being postponed and delayed, which we'll keep an eye on as well. By the way, if you're watching us on YouTube, sorry we didn't get Monday's show up and running. I forgot to hit the easy button that tells you to start the stream on their end. I'm used to everything starting automatically like it does everywhere else. At YouTube, it still doesn't. So I apologize to all of you who tried to watch our show on Monday on the YouTube simulcast. Hello, Aunt BJ. I love watching the show. Studio looks good. Thank you. Studio still needs a little bit more cleaning up and organizing. We got to get a couple of new jerseys hung up, but we got to do a little bit more pinning of them. But thank you. We like the way the studio looks. So again, if you got questions for us, you can tweet us, you can email us, you can message us on Facebook. A reminder, we're no longer on Sunday nights. We're now on Monday nights. The show airs Mondays and Thursdays now from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, or 7 to whenever we get off the air, p.m. Eastern Time. We will still have Come Selection Sunday, a special on Sunday, so that won't change. We do have a couple of days coming up where we have basketball games in the evening that we have to call, so we will most likely do one of two things. We'll figure it out. We'll either move the show to another night, which would mean if it's on a Monday, we might move it to Tuesday, or we will do it earlier in the day. Certainly an option. And if you like watching it in the evening, you can catch it up on demand if necessary. So just keep track with us on Twitter, on Facebook, and elsewhere, as we'll keep you up to date on a lot of those decisions. We'll keep an eye on scores from around Division III tonight as well. Despite all of you who listen to the show on demand, we'll at least keep you up to date on games that have already taken place in your world. In men's basketball, so far, no real big games on the docket. Number 19, Mary Hardin Baylor is taking on Sulross today, and number 22, Hardin Simmons is taking on Laterno. Otherwise, no other ranked teams are taking to the floor. And in women's basketball, there are no ranked teams playing tonight. But we'll keep an eye on things. 2 games already in the books in women's basketball action. So there you go. Ryan Scott's got another great Around the Nation article out about welcoming us back to basketball. And good read today. I enjoyed that. And congratulations to our Team of the Week honorees as well today, by the way. So there you go. There was a change from the NCAA's guidance on things that we hinted about earlier today on Twitter. Give me a second. I will call that one up. Basically, it has to do with understanding, basically, who is considered fully vaccinated. They've made some adjustments on that. And it's for winter sports mainly. For the purpose of winter guidelines, the Medical Advisory Group has developed a definition of fully vaccinated that considers both vaccinated status and immunity factors for Tier 1 student athletes and coaches and individuals. The following are fully vaccinated, just so you know, within 2 months of having completed the primary series of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Of course, that's a 1-dose vaccine, so within 2 months of that dose, you're considered fully vaccinated. If you're outside of that, you are not. Within 5 months of completing the primary vaccines for Pfizer, and within 6 months of completing the primary vaccines for Moderna, meaning 2 doses both. So by the time you finish the second one in 2 weeks post that, I would assume. So again, 5 months after Pfizer, 6 months after Moderna. And then if you received a booster vaccine, 2 months beyond Johnson & Johnson, 5 or 6 months past Pfizer and Moderna, respectively. So same timing again. So whether it's the 5 to 6 months after the main doses of those vaccines or 5 to 6 months after the booster, again, depending, Pfizer, it's 5 months, 6 months, it's Moderna, 2 months, it's Johnson & Johnson. Also, anyone who has documented COVID-19 infection in the past 90 days is considered fully vaccinated. So 90-day window. I remember last year there was a lot of talk between 90 days and 120 days. Not easy, obviously. Let's see here. They also had suggestions 5 days of quarantine after a positive test with isolation, ending after 5 days if there are no symptoms or symptoms are resolving. Considerations also include masking around others for an additional 5 days, basically the CDC mandates. Participation in athletic activities without a mask during days 6 through 10 can be considered following a negative PCR test or antigen test. I've also been told by some that don't be surprised if we start seeing teams wearing masks again, not because of NCAA guidelines, but just for other reasons. So lots to just kind of take in with all of this. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts, not only with games, but with testing and with everything else underway. So it's a big to-do, as you can imagine, and we'll keep you up to date as best we can on Twitter and elsewhere. Again, I think we're just in for a rough January. I have no significant knowledge to say this, but I have a feeling things will be a little bit better come February, but could be dead wrong. We all thought in November that things were good and Omicron was not even on our radars and things would be fine and we'd get through it. We'd gotten used to Delta and things were okay in the fall sports, and then Omicron came along and changed everything. So not easy, to say the least, and we'll all get through it. And don't see any reason the championships would be called off at this point, but we'll certainly keep an eye on that as well. With that, we'll take a break. Coming up, we will talk to Juli Fulks, the head coach at Transylvania, about her Pioneers women's team and what they're doing. As I now see more tweets, George Fox has moved games around against Pacific Lutheran this weekend in both men's and women's action. Don't know the exact changes, but lots of changes happening. Mark Newman says, an NCAA inconsistent, the hell you say, seems logical to me that you would have exposures. Yes. I don't think they're being inconsistent. I think they're just trying to keep up with things, is what they're trying to do, as everybody is. And remember, on top of all that, they have a testing protocols. Schools may have more stringent protocols and all of that will, trump anything that the NCAA is stating. That's just minimums. Just remember that. It's just minimums. All right, with that, we'll take a break. When we come back, Juli Fulks joins us. You've been listening to Hoopsville. Back with more as we're just getting rolling here on Thursday evening after this.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor's Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
Why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you've got questions for us, you can always tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville, where we're simulcasting the show. And, of course, we're on YouTube at youtube.com/Hoopsville as well, by the way. And you can always email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com. So, got to see Transylvania out at the D3Hoops.com Classic once again. It was the men's program. Good to see Brian Lane out there once again with his squad. Took a little bit of some lumps while they were out there. Well, in the meantime, his women's team flying high. By the way, side note, if you didn't get a chance to listen to the first men's game, Gordon gave us the entire breakdown on why the bat is a mascot. And then we got the full story from Brian Lane that we're not allowed to talk to on this kind of programming. We'll talk about that some other time. Trust us. It's a good story. But, again, while we were getting all that distraction, the women's team was rising in the top 25 poll. They're now number 4 in the D3 top 25. It's the highest they've ever been. So, well, that's easy. That's an easy guest selection. Joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline is Juli Fulks, the head coach of the aforementioned number 4 Pioneers. And, Coach, first and foremost, congratulations on the ranking and getting to 2022. You got to be thrilled with how your team is playing and how it's getting recognized.
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me. It's like you said, it's been a great first half. I was listening earlier, and it has been a really challenging January.
Yes.
Which doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon. So I think I was thankful that we played all of our games right before break and kind of beat a little bit of this, but we haven't had any luck in conference play so far.
I was going to say, you guys actually had a whole host of games.
Yeah.
You didn't lay off much in the first half. You played, 10 games, squeezed them in a ton in November especially. And you then look at what you're supposed to have done by now. You should have already had 2 games in conference from January 2nd and January 5th, other than the 3 you already played in conference play. And you're already on a holding pattern, and we don't even know if you'll be playing on Saturday against Defiance. Listen, it's nice to get a break, right? But it's got to be a little bit tough to not know if you're playing tomorrow, as it were.
Well, we actually already do know we're not playing.
Oh, there you go. Breaking news.
Yeah. So we found out today. We were also down that one. So, when the first D3 Hoops poll came out in November, my assistant did a count on how many top 25 teams were on that. And I thought to myself, I might overschedule this just a little bit. But thankfully, I should never tell our team that.
No.
We have a really strong group of competitors, and every game they go into, they believe they're going to win, and they're pretty excited about it. So it ended up working out really well, and we stayed healthy through the first part. And eventually we hope we'll get to play a conference game.
Well, we'll see. We'll wait until February, maybe. Tufts was your 3rd game out of the block. Yeah. And to say the least, that's great scheduling. It's going to help you in a lot of ways, win or lose. You got the win out of it. I mean, you're 10-0 on the season, so obviously you got the win out of it. 66-65, but Piedmont's on there. Rose Holman, of course, in conference, played John Carroll and Capital. You had a lot of, and maybe not all of them have been as great. Now, Carroll's been awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Carroll's been in the top 5 as well. Dixie Jeffers' team at Capital hasn't been as strong as they normally are. They're 3-10, but still, it looked like it was going to be a bit of a murderer's row, as it were. How do you prepare the team for that? You said you don't tell them how many top 25s there are, but they're going to figure it out.
They knew. They definitely knew. There's some things that would go in our favor. This team has a history of success. They haven't lost very many games.
Yeah.
Especially our juniors and seniors. So they're used to winning. And I always believe that is a large part of everything that we do. And, there's an exciting component to it, but we helped ourselves out. We got to go to Canada this year over fall break. And so we went up to Montreal and played 3 Division I teams up there. And that got us going really quickly. And we got to play Eastern Kentucky as a Division I exhibition. And so, going into Tufts, we had only played some really amazing teams that challenged us every possession. And so I thought that part really helped us get ready for this non-conference schedule. And they were already used to how hard it was, just to get the ball up the floor, just to score each possession, rebounding, defending. And so I think when we got to those games, it didn't feel different. It just felt like the next big, strong team. And they kept rising to the challenge. When we played Eastern Kentucky, the Division I team with 2 minutes to go, in the third, we were down 2. And so they are fearless.
Clearly it's been working in your advantage. We should point out, just give some love to the WBCA, number 4 in their poll as well, which is obviously pretty stellar in that end. Best start to the season in your career, which I can't believe is your 8th year at Transylvania. I still think you just got there.
It's going really fast.
Yeah, it has. But how much of this team I'm kind of curious about, because your school isn't necessarily, I mean, Brian said it to me. He's like, listen, we don't have graduate degrees. So it's not like our teams can just hang on like others do and get a graduate degree and get another year. Do you have anybody who is able to stay on for another year? Or is this literally a team playing this well that really hasn't been on the floor since 2019?
Yeah, we don't. We had 4 seniors last year, and they were ready to graduate. They had awesome careers, and they had, we got to play a lot last year. And outside of the NCAA tournament, they felt like they had done everything that they wanted to, do in basketball court. And so I would have welcomed any of them back. They had started for a long time, but it was also nice. We've had a lot of really talented underclassmen below them that have patiently, waited. And I think maybe that's where I didn't know the transition this year. I thought by January we'd be pretty good, but when players are stepping into, now it's my turn to win, when we are down 1 at Tufts with 7 seconds to go, you just don't know how those moments are going to play out. And, and this is a group, I can't say enough, it's a group that likes to compete and win. And no matter the game we play in practice, they know who won and they know who lost. And that matters to them. And so they've done a great job stepping into that role. And they've been even better down the stretch. We had last week when we lost the Manchester game, and it was disappointing to lose that game, but our 3 days of practice were phenomenal that we had in place. And I felt great about heading into this week and thought we were really ready to roll. And, hopefully we get that chance again, but they certainly have grown into their new roles and, their new expectations.
We should say lost in the terms of not being able to play it. Your conference isn't allowing you guys necessarily to make them up. I guess you can, but they won't count for conference play. Is that correct? That's just a recent change.
Yeah, that changed yesterday. So we went from the forfeiture to the no contest. And I heard that you said Stacey Ledoux was going to come on later, so she'll give a great explanation. So we'll be down 3 games. I don't know that we'll make any of those up. We would be willing if we could figure it out, but as you know, it's hard to add in games kind of once you're into the heart of conference season. So depending on how that works, I sent out a few emails tonight to see if we can get a game this weekend. So we are hopeful. We have a team that's ready to go and vaccinated and boosted and all the things. And so if we can find a game that works, we'll play.
17th in the country in scoring margin. You're outscoring your opponents by 22 points a game. You're 17th in 3-pointers per game. You're hitting 9 a game, basically. Taking 9 a game sometimes is a big number for teams. You're hitting 9 a game. By the way, percentage-wise, I just had it. You're hitting 32% of your 3-pointers, which is any coach's dream. 23rd in the country in points per game. You're scoring over 75 a game, and you're 31st in blocks at nearly 5 blocks a game. Some of that might be Justin Sweeney giving you a little love. That's just my favorite way to get him a shout out. Is this a team defensively minded, and thus why we see the scoring margin only allowing teams 53 points a game and able to get those blocked shots? Or is this an offensive team, thus the 75 points, the 9 3-pointers, et cetera?
Yeah. Last year, sometimes, things happen unexpectedly. And last year we were a very physically big team. We had a lot of really talented 6'2", 6'3" players. And we decided with COVID last year, we were just going to switch to zone. And I had never gone all zone. In fact, the only good team I had never ever known that had gone all zone was George Fox back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
And so we decided to switch to that because whoever was in and out with COVID, we thought we could adapt really well. And we played zone the entire year. And then about 5 possessions into the conference tournament, switched and played man the rest of the way, and won the conference tournament.
Yeah, because everyone went, what are you doing?
Yeah, basically. And so we started in the zone this year, and, a year later, they're pretty good about it. The zone had, and it's not a secret that we play zone, so I don't feel like I'm giving away anything here.
Even if it was, you got to execute, right?
Yeah. But, there's some perks to playing zone. The scouting reports are a lot less at this point. There's only a few ways that people are going to attack it. And
True.
Our players are confident in what they're going to give up and what we're not going to give up. We're rebounding really well out of the zone. We have some very athletic players on the bottom row, and our guards go get the ball. And so, when we played John Carroll and some of these other teams, the first quarters, we got out pretty far, and we were able to hold people, 20-4, 20-5 have been some of our first quarters while people adapt to going against the zone. And so that's been well for us. I don't know. I mean, last year, the third round, people kind of started to figure it out, and we prepare all the time for the conference teams that see it too many times. So I think this team is both ends. They're not afraid to shoot. Taking 43s is no longer a shocking number to us. A few years ago it was. And I tell them all the time, as long as we're shooting over 30%, I can do math. And that is a really efficient day. I think the important thing is we shoot it well and we rebound it well. When we shoot threes, we send everybody after the ball, and it is, it's going to come off at 8 feet. And we come up with most of those misses. And so in some ways, a lot of times that's just the first shot we go down there with. And, we expect to get a second shot if we miss. And that has played out for us.
A few things I'm taking away from that. First off, you've clearly understood the analytics that is basketball now.
Yeah.
That says the three-pointer is worth taking if you're shooting at a good percentage. So again, not afraid to shoot if you're shooting at a good percentage. So 40, 50 shots, fine, as long as we're getting anywhere from 10 to 15 of them to drop.
Yeah.
On top of that, I also hear you say 8 feet is the rebound. There's an understanding of where that rebound is coming from that I don't normally hear that conversation. You hear coaches talk about crashing boards, boxing out, being in position. But man, that's got to be an interesting part to add to it, to go, hey, we're shooting threes. Don't be under the basket. Be over here.
Yeah. We flood it, and, from the 3-point line, everybody about gets a foot in the key. And it starts, we have great athletes who have great habits. And so when they're chasing the ball down, they're able to beat people to the ball. And so it is a combination of a strategy, I think, that works well for them. They love going and rebounding. And so I think it plays well on both ends of the floor. I have a really analytical assistant, and he has done all the math on all the divisions, and he has been very clear with me that defensive rebounding equates to championships at every level, at everything. And so, we focus on defensive rebounding, and the best games that we can defend, there'll be 60% will be their misses, and we need to come up with a large percentage of them. And part of the zone rebounding stuff that's been interesting is teaching zone rebounding. The man-to-man stuff is much easier.
Well, because you find a man and box out.
Yeah. And so the zone, there are certain shots that you give up. If you give them up, you're already at a disadvantage. And so part of the zone has been learning not to give up some certain shots because we're not going to be able to box out very well out of it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it played together, but at both ends, our core is rebounding. We don't have to make the first shot every time. We believe we're going to come up with a lot of offensive boards. And, there's plenty of possessions. I don't know if this is good or bad coaching. We shoot a 3, miss, get the rebound, shoot a 3, miss, get a rebound, and make the third. And that's right at 33%. And that works. And so we happen to take 3 shots that possession.
I'm looking at your roster, and I know from just talking to individuals, and as you said, you had a lot of size last year. I remember that.
Yeah.
You don't have as much. So you have 3 players listed at 6'1" or 6'2".
Yeah.
You have a ton of players at 5'11" or shorter, and just looking at who's who, Emily Teal, for example, played in 10 games, so she's obviously in the game a lot. Lakin Ball, third in the team in scoring, obviously plays a lot. Who's the one I'm missing? Oh, Grace Bringard, 10 games. So you're playing all 3 of them. Are they providing the size you need, or is the rebounding, as I'm hearing, more cerebral than physical?
It's probably honestly a healthy combination. Grace Shope is a really physical 5'10" guard, and she is a great technique rebounder on the defensive end. She's probably one of our best at just making sure her player in her area doesn't come up with the ball. So a lot of times I think our guards get to come in there and do, stat themselves with the rebounds while some of the other players did a lot of the heavy lifting.
Sure.
But on the offensive end, she is hard for anybody to handle to box out. And great habits, strong, will end up in the paint every time. And so I think it's both sides. We have On the other side, we have Deja Thornton and Kennedy Stacy, who are unbelievable athletes and can chase down and fast. And Deja can touch, can go jump up and grab the rim. So we have some players that can get up a little bit and add that in. And so
That's huge.
It's a healthy mix of strength, speed, and just athleticism with hopefully a cerebral approach to it that they all understand.
Talked about a few of these players, but you've got Calion at 8.2 points a game, Kennedy Stacy at 14 points a game, Ball at 12 points a game, Thornton at basically 11 points a game. They're all juniors, by the way. Heads up, everybody, for next season. But that's 4 players in double figures, and when you look even deeper than that to see who else you've got in terms of scoring, you've still got at least 4 more who are going to put some points up during the game as well. So you've got 8 for the most part, but those 4 as a core scoring in double figures. I don't know a ton about basketball, but I know that isn't there's no way the defense can key on one person.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have too many weapons, and that's got to be a huge advantage.
It is, and it's something that matters to us. Maddie Calion is a phenomenal offensive player, and she's hard to stop. She shoots it really well from the 3-point line, and she is really great at attacking the rim and scoring inside, whether it's post or guards. And unfortunately, she tore ACL as a freshman back when we had Shelby Boyle and Ashton Woodard, so that would have been an interesting addition to that group. And so, offensively, everything we're trying to do is just make the defenders make a choice and have our offense understand what that means. And they aren't selfish. I mean, they move the ball around. I think that's always been one of our team's strengths. They really care about us getting a good shot, no matter who it is, and making the right reads. And, and I think that makes us tough to guard. We can score outside. We spend a lot of time scoring inside for the nights where the ball does not go in. And every now and then that happens. And that's with our guards and our posts. Our, Maddie and Kennedy, they all of their work is equalized between the post and guards. So we know that we can put them inside and they can have a lot of luck. And sometimes it's easier to score the guards inside than trying to figure out how to get them to the rim with the ball in their hands.
Calion also scored 33, by the way, against John Carroll. That's saying a lot. Also 14 to 15 from the free throw line. And then obviously a big game against Capital the next day. And now you've been sitting since. Is this and by the way, we should mention there are 2 seniors on this team. We didn't even get a chance to talk about them. One of them is leading the way in blocks. But this team, as good as it's sounding now, and I certainly don't want to look past now in February or March, but it's very well built for next season too.
It is.
And that's just a heads up to everybody in the HCA.
Yeah. Grace and Grace, our 2 seniors.
Yeah.
Grace Shope has now started for 3 years. And so outside of all the amazing things she brings on the court, she brings a lot of experience and expectations. And so when things aren't going up to standard, she'll be the first to tell people, and does it in the nicest way possible, but she makes sure they know. And Grace Bringer, kind of same thing. She missed her whole sophomore year with an injury. And then first practice out of the gate, her junior year got hurt. And so for a lot of people, they probably didn't even know where she came from. And she's the one person that can block Maddie Calion just about every time. And we laugh about it because nobody else can get her. So after a couple of years, she's kind of timed her up a little bit. But she's 6'3" and long. And so she can get to things, and she gives us a different look in the middle of the zone. And that has helped us a lot. And we haven't even, and that adds into, we have 5 great freshmen. Our freshman class is awesome. And, then January, they really started to turn the corner down the stretch, and they have saved us a few times when we've been in foul trouble or some other things, that kind of just happen in games, and they come in and they knock down shot. They really can shoot the ball. So people don't even know that yet. They have some great shooters in that class, and Emily Teal gives us another, strong person inside. So there are lots of pieces. And in COVID times, that probably matters more than anything.
Yeah, I was going to say the other aspect of this is you guys haven't been affected. It seems like things have been good for you guys, but the way this darn virus has been acting at any team, it's just a matter of when, not a matter of if. how would you deal with losses to depth or losses to starters if you have to go into a big game in the ECAC? It might be Rose-Hulman, for example. Yeah. How do you feel comfortable now? It's a question I don't think we were even thinking about talking about in December.
Yeah, I think one of the things that matters to us is that we're always getting our freshmen prepared. And that, last year that was a whole different kind of thought process, but this year as well. Our freshmen solely have played a couple games the entire fourth quarters, and we're able to win those. And, there's a nice balance of them playing kind of all on their own and then them always being mixed in with our other players.
Sure.
And, practice is the same way. Sometimes they're on their own and sometimes they're mixed in. And so at this point, they're able to really compete. And they know their strengths. They know what they're able to do really well now. They know what they're working on. And so, obviously you always want your whole team and all of your options. But two of our, when we played Tufts, we were missing a starter. And when we played John Carroll, we were missing a starter. So we've already won two of our bigger games without our full roster. We had a really tough fall. There was a lot of things that happened, family things off the court that were really hard for our team. But I actually think it really bonded them stronger together. It's been tough times. And while they were going through some really hard things off the court, I think also it just makes you that much stronger when you're watching your teammates have to handle these type of things that are bigger than basketball. But man, they showed that they can really rally when you're winning those games missing starters. And so I think we feel good about our depth and what we're able to do.
Brian Lane says we're going to be having to call you Dr. Juli Fulks at some point in the near future. Can you at least give us a heads up? And what will the doctoralship be in?
The doctoral it's a doctorate in leadership.
Okay.
And the only person I will make called that is Brian Lane.
Rightly so. Rightly so. You must have him do that. Yes.
So COVID may push it back a little bit, but hopefully we're done by August.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll kind of pick it back up after basketball season.
I was reminded from reading your bio and from a friendly text message, because I totally blanked. My brain had only gone as far back as your Lewis and Clark coaching days. You played for Dixie Jeffers, something we haven't talked a lot about on this show. The Christmas Eve news drop that was on a Friday. Dixie Jeffers essentially retiring immediately from both the coaching and the AD job that she was interim for. Your thoughts on Dixie's hanging it up a little bit, and your thoughts on playing for? Yeah, well,
back in the day, when I played for Dixie, she was defensive guru.
Yes.
And I will be honest, when I first started coaching, I was on that side, and then I really realized, good or bad, my passion was for the other end of the court.
I can understand.
And I hate losing enough to work on defense, but it's
there
not
you go.
what
Smart.
Excites me. But yeah, I was surprised. I think like everybody else, she wasn't able to come to our tournament, and I was looking forward to that. We had never played against each other.
Yeah, I noticed that she didn't coach in that one.
Yeah. So she wasn't able to be there that weekend, and her assistant was actually one of the male practice players.
Oh, really?
When I played. So, I've known Jason Wright, her one assistant, for obviously a really long time.
Yeah.
He was in charge of getting all of our fans to games, and he did a great job with that. She's had a great career, and, it is impressive how many of the coaches in that league have been doing this for a long time. Several of them recruited me, and I am not young anymore. But yeah, she had a great career, and I don't know kind of all that went on there, but hopefully everything is okay up there, and looking forward to whoever is there next. It's a great place to coach and work.
I'm not saying you have to leave Transylvania, but you're an alum.
I am an alum.
I'm not putting you on the spot either.
I will say this. I'm smart enough to know I have one of the best bosses in the country.
There you go.
And she read the tea leaves on a lot of things with everything, and has been able to keep us playing.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy right where I'm at, but
I don't blame
it's a great place. And I want Capital to be winning and doing well.
Well, as long as it's not against you.
That, as long as they can, any other game.
We're going long, and I apologize to our next guest, but I got to ask you. You mentioned the practice player. I was a practice player in my college day for the women's team, so I've got to ask you this.
Yeah.
Did you go harder at the practice players in practice and attack them, or did you go harder at the players in the game?
You know, it's a hard thing. We have 3 baseball guys every year that help us out. And there are best practices when they're there. You know, everybody rises to the occasion, and nobody kind of backs down or has any problem, you know, putting a shoulder into somebody.
No, I noticed that when I was around.
Yeah. So I think kind of everybody, you know, the male practice players, they come in, they make us better. And, you know, they also probably take a beating sometimes that's unfair.
I was told obviously not to go too aggressive, which totally made sense. Yep. I was a lot skinnier than I was now. But at some point, I remember halfway through one of the seasons, one of the coaches pulled me aside and said, no, we're done. Go at them. Because they were coming after me, and all of a sudden it became a war.
Yeah. But I wish, I understand the NCAA's perspective on this.
Yeah, some took advantage.
I would love to be able to have them in more. I think that just gives us a different look, and, you know, we're able to do different things when we're not always having to go against ourselves. And so for us, that's always a great day, because we can have them do, you know, things that our team doesn't do naturally or well, because it's not what we do. And so using them makes our team better all the time. So yeah, I would always be a proponent to expand that legislation. Well, especially in COVID years.
Yeah, I was going to say, and the other thing too is maybe D3, like many things, should have an exemption to some degree too.
Yeah.
Hey,
it would certainly make some practices better some days.
Yeah, better, and maybe get an extra trainer around. Might need some wounds to be licked up. Hey, thanks for the time. Always love chatting with you. Enjoy the donuts. That's a little side joke. Keep Brian in place, and do us a favor. At least say hello to Bat for us. We're all huge fans of it now that we know the entire story behind the Pioneers. As always, give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who might be tuned in?
I think our team is super excited. A funny random side story about the bat. The last conference game we lost at home was the day they unveiled the bat.
Really?
It was.
Okay, I didn't know that.
2017, they unveiled the bat the day we played Rose Holman and we did not win, but that was the last home conference game we didn't win. So our team has never lost a home conference game right now. So knock on wood, and we were not even playing games. So I guess we can't even test that record anymore.
That's fascinating. All right, good to know. I mean, I learned a lot about the bat in Vegas. I'm now adding that you don't necessarily like debuts of mascots. Got it.
There we go. Hopefully we don't have another one coming soon.
Exactly. Right. No, really. Let's just keep it the way it is. Hey, thanks for the time. Really appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the season. Look forward to touching base with you down the road, and take care of yourself and stay safe.
All right. You too. Thanks so much, Dave.
Yep. Juli Fulks joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline. Really appreciate her coming on. Fun to chat. We're way late on our next guest. Brian will understand, I'm sure. We'll take another break. When we come back, continue talking women's basketball. Simpson women's basketball coach Brian Niemuth will join us. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. Back with more after this.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
There are over 480,000 college athletes. Only 2% would go pro.
That means over 470,000 will not get a shoe contract. No autographs. No private jets. No fan clubs. No Hall of Fame inductions. Instead, they will walk away with something much more valuable.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com, or join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Great conversation with Juli Fulks. Really appreciate her time. Fun stuff. We look forward to seeing how Transylvania does down the road. Again, if you ever look up, we're going to get the book. Gordon got the book. I'm going to look up the title. We'll talk about it a little bit later. Great book by a former Division III SID about all the mascots in Division III, and that's how we got all the info on the Transylvania Bat. We've got it ordered. It'll go into our bookshelf at some point. Gusty's Gyfens. Oh, I forgot the name. We'll look it up. We'll get it in a minute. Speaking of women's basketball, keep the topic going. We'll tweet this out in a minute. Simpson off to a tremendous start. They're 12-1 on the season, 4-0 in the ARC, and they are number 6 in the D3Hoops.com T3Hoops.com top 25. If memory serves, because I don't have it in front of me, blasted Wartburg in conference play, which certainly leapfrogged them in the top 25. Haven't had Brian on in a while, so we decided let's try out a new thing. He's joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline, and he's joining us via the telephone, which we haven't done in quite some time, and I'm thrilled because this was the whole audio board was designed for. Brian, thanks for joining the show. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it too, but I've been on the move all evening, and that's why I had to grab it.
Oh, no. No worries. We literally got this audio board with a couple of bells and whistles strictly to do what we're doing with you. So I appreciate it. COVID is how Zoom became so popular. Before COVID, we barely had coaches who came on via video. So it's, it's a blessing and a curse. Hey,
okay.
Listen, hats off on the season so far. I mean, you've always had a good team. That's no surprise to anybody by any stretch of the imagination. You and the battles with Wartburg, of course, have always been tough as well. But 12-1 start, you're number 6 in the top 25. You're 4-0 in conference play. You're one loss to Eau Claire, which is playing pretty well this season. Again, you blitz Wartburg 90-74. You beat La Crosse at one point this season, and you're coming off a big win over Buena Vista. Were you expecting this good a team this year?
Well, I can say I was hoping for this good a team. We had a good group coming back, and then we added a couple seniors that returned for their COVID year. And so I knew our leadership would be good. I knew we returned a lot of experience. And so, yeah, I didn't know for sure. I certainly hoped that we would have this kind of year.
Listen, again, we're expecting you guys to always have a tremendous season because you guys have been good over time. 12-0 last year in the COVID year. You were 18-8 the year before that, 20-17. Honestly, it was a couple of years there between 2016 and 2018 that it was almost anti-stormish. Normally, you have always competitive teams. What happened then, and how have you gotten over it?
Well, I became the athletic director at Simpson College.
Yeah, that's true.
I learned real quick that the time you have to put into that was taking time away from basketball. So they let me go back to strictly basketball, and we've started to rebuild a little bit, and we're having fun.
I don't want to distract from this year's team, but you bring up an interesting point. There's a number of Division III of ADs who are also head coaches, and I've always said that split kind of affects the team, and you eventually see it. It may not be right away, but a year or two later, it starts to become unnoticeable, whether it's because of recruiting or lack of being able to prep for practice or a game, whatever it is. Everybody's got a different variation of that. When did you realize it? And I'm kind of curious, was it a tough decision with others to let go of the AD stuff?
I didn't know it going in that it would be that difficult to do justice to both, but it didn't take me long to figure out that one or the other was going to have to go. And while I was AD, my assistant did a great job of running basketball, but basketball was where my heart was. I went to the president, asked him if I could go back to strictly coaching, and he was okay with that. And we ended up hiring an AD that is an AD only, which I think was a great move. And so it wasn't hard for me to figure it out. I told him when I took the job that if it affected basketball, I would want to go back to just coaching. So they kind of knew that ahead of time. And so it was a good move for me experience-wise to just get the 5 years as AD. Now that I can say I've done it, but I'm glad I'm just coaching and that we have Marty Bell as our AD right now.
Yeah, interesting. A lot of programs, I think, schools eventually figured it out, and some of them just they haven't gone in that direction. So I appreciate the slight insight there we got with it. Back to your season again. Got off the gate with Gustavus Adolphus on the 12th of November, and then you had a bunch of games kind of all in a row. In a 10-day span, you played 5 games. Northwestern, Loras, Eau Claire, La Crosse, and Superior. Oh, by the way, they were also all on the road, not at your place, and you only took the one blip there against Eau Claire, 72-70. How tough was that stretch?
It was challenging, and it was challenging with a purpose. I mean, I scheduled this knowing that we would have a pretty good experienced group coming back, and I knew I needed to challenge them. And so I think our schedule is ranked like number 2 as far as toughness goes. I think what I wanted to accomplish was playing tough teams on the road, playing with short turnarounds, getting used to climbing off that bus and mentally being prepared to play one of the better teams in Division III. We ended up 8-1 through our non-conference season. As you said, Eau Claire got us, and they are a very good team. So I think it helped make us. Hopefully, it will help make us a better team as we get further into the conference season.
Odd question, but just something you're talking about there makes me wonder. Wartburg, obviously, in this conference kind of came on, was about 5 or so years ago. Of course, in 2018, they were 31-1, and surrounding that, they had 25, 23, 27 game win seasons. Did you guys, from not the outside, but from another conference school, look at what they were doing in terms of scheduling? Because they always tended to have a tournament that was stacked with talent, or in other ways. Did you look at what they were doing and try to mimic it, or was there something else that caused you to say, you know what, we're going out there and we're going to schedule hard?
Yeah, I'd say it was something else. I don't, I guess, pay attention to what the other teams schedule in our conference, but I do know that we needed to be challenged. And we've talked about this a lot. We can win games on talent, but if we're going to get better, we've got to play good teams, and we've got to mentally prepare to try and find something to challenge us. Well, the schedule was the first thing I thought of as far as a challenge goes for our team. How tough can I schedule, and how much do I want to put on the road and in short turnarounds on this team? And I went all in, and I got to give credit to the team. They've responded, and as I told them, it's the toughest schedule I've ever put one of my teams into, and I've had some pretty good teams, and so I'm glad with what we've been able to do with it.
Yeah, I should again mention Gustavus Adolphus, Northwestern, then Loras, Eau Claire, La Crosse, Superior, Co, Wartburg, Alfred, obviously Co and Wartburg conference play, Westminster, Missouri, La Crosse again, obviously just dumb luck there, Bethany Lutheran, and then obviously into conference play with Buena Vista, and everyone's having tremendously good seasons, and you're coming out with some interesting wins because you're coming out of games winning 70-56 or maybe a loss 72-70, but you're also coming out of games 99-74. You have a lot of different kind of styles, it feels like, this season.
Yeah, I think we can play because of the different teams we've played. We've had to play different styles, and I do think that's one of the things that we do well is we can adapt. We can, we like to play fast, we like to press, we like to run, and I think we're good at it. But I also know that if we get caught in a slow down game where somebody tries to hold the ball, and we've got to figure out ways to win those kind of games. And so far we've been able to do that. So I do think that we're flexible with how we can play, which hopefully will help us as we get into the season a little further. But I think we can play fast. I don't want to play slow, but I think we can if we have to. And so we've kind of found ourselves a little bit in that, we're a flexible team. We've got players that can play, a lot of different positions. We play a lot of different styles. We've got 4 different defenses we play. Offensively, we've got our post player who's probably our best 3-point shooter. We've got an off guard that can post people up. So I like what we can do and how we're not fitting the norm, I guess, to kind of say. And so I think it's what makes us what we are right now.
You've got 18 players who have jersey numbers. You have 25 on the roster. Interestingly enough, nobody in single digits on it. I don't think I've seen many rosters without single digit uniforms. And you're playing a lot of players. If you look at the top 7 in scoring have all played 13 games. You've got another 3 that have played 10 or more and a handful more that have played 7 or more. Obviously, some of the games have been well in hand, so you can go deep in the bench, but you've even gone deep in the bench in tight games.
Yeah, I think for the way we play, the style with the up-tempo, you have to have that depth. And I was listening to Juli a little bit right before this, and she talked about her freshmen, and we basically have 7 starters. I mean, I have 7 players that I think could start for us, but the freshmen are kind of filling in the spots behind that at 8, 9, and 10, and they're learning as they go, as she said, but I feel comfortable putting them in. And so, when you get in foul trouble or right now we have somebody out hurt, you can fill in. And so that's been very helpful.
Of the 7 players who essentially would be those starters, counting graduates and seniors as the same class, 5 of them are seniors with 1 junior, 1 sophomore, and they're all averaging 22, 23, or 20 minutes plus a game. So in other words, they're playing more than half the game. But again, to your point, you're filling in with juniors and freshmen and sophomores as well. And so they're getting that playing experience. But to some degree, unlike what Juli's situation is in the sense that she's got that core group who's returning next year, this is kind of the group for this year, unless some of those seniors come back next year for another year, right?
That's correct. We'll have 2 back for sure, and I've got a 3rd that has the ability to come back for a 5th year, and then the freshmen are, as I tell them every day, you're playing against some of the best people in the conference, and so you're getting a chance to get better, and I think that has been a good challenge for them. We have a first-team All-American player. And, the freshmen that are going against her, hopefully, are learning how to play the game at the college level a little bit and what it takes off the court to be a college athlete. And so hopefully some of them will be able to step in with the returners that we have.
Yeah, Jenna Taylor is killing it. 17 points a game, 8.4 rebounds a game, 2 assists per game, an assist to turnover ratio of 1.4 to 1. By the way, she's shooting 56.5% from the floor and 42% from deep, on top of being an 83% free throw shooter. Does she have a flaw in her game?
Well, if I'm answering as a coach, I'd say we could always work on her defense. But offensively, she's really hard to guard. I mean, if you put somebody smaller on her, she'll take you inside. If you have a big post on her, then she can take you outside and hit the three. And she's worked hard to become the player she is. And I hope my other players can learn from her what it takes to get to that level. She wasn't obviously that good as an incoming freshman. It's all through her work ethic, and I'm thrilled for her that she's having this success, because I think she deserves it from all the hours she's put into basketball.
What's amazing is the other things that jump out at me when I look at just the statistical side of this team. You're outscoring your opponents by 20.6 points per game. But you as a team are shooting better than 48% from the floor, better than 36% from beyond the arc. You've got players like Nash who are shooting 61% from the floor, Kincaid's at 53%, a whole host of players at 40+%. Those are some really good shooting numbers. Is that something that can continue all season, and what's been the magic?
Well, I hope so. And I'm glad you brought that up, because to be honest with this team, I'd like to think it was magic and that, they were having some good luck, but it comes down to the work that my assistant does with them with individual workouts during the season. She gets them in the gym in groups of 2 or 3, and they work hard on their shooting. And I think in practice we do a lot of stuff with shooting. And I always think, if you can make baskets, you got a chance to win a game. It's we try to score off of our defense, but the whole key is in basketball is putting the ball in the hoop, and so we try and work on that a lot, and we do have some good shooters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And 3-point shooting, we mentioned Taylor, 42%. Oh, by the way, you also have Freeland at 40% from deep. Rasmussen at 42.5% from deep. Wanek at 38% from deep. You've got pick your poison from 3-point land as well.
Yeah, I mean, we have that ability to score from outside, which opens up the inside a little bit. But, a couple years ago, Jenna Taylor led the nation, all 3 divisions in 3-point shooting. Kaya Rasmussen a couple years ago was second in the nation in 3-point shooting. And Reagan Freeland is only a sophomore, but she can certainly shoot it from out there. Anna is a D2 transfer who can shoot it from out there. So it's not only the fact that they can shoot it out there, it's the fact that they continue to work on it so that they get better at it.
Yeah, pretty impressive, to say the least, and obviously a reason you're a top 10 program. And winning games against Wartburg the way you did. Switching gears, you've already lost your game against Luther coming up on Saturday. Obviously, everyone's starting to deal with these postponements and cancellations and just disruptions, as it were, to the schedule. How are you guys, obviously, as you start to deal with your first one of these, dealing with it, and what are you expecting the rest of the way?
Boy, that's a loaded question. I really don't know what to expect. I hope that I just assumed colleges would have spike of COVID when everybody comes back to campus.
Yeah,
I'm hoping it doesn't last long and that it takes a turn downward quickly. We did lose our first game for this Saturday with Luther, and so we'll have an inter-squad scrimmage and try and stay sharp. Hopefully that we can continue to play games and we as a conference at first we're going to have, if you didn't play it was a forfeit. I think tomorrow we'll find out that now they're going to try and make up those games and so whatever they end up doing. We'll try and follow the program and do the best we can. But right now, we're just trying to focus on the next game. So I think if you start thinking and worrying about how many games can be canceled and what's going to happen, you lose focus on what you're trying to get done. So,
Sure.
Man, it's I'm hoping we don't get back to the point where we were last year, where the NCAA thinks about closing down Division III championships, and I don't want to get to that point.
Sure. Of course, good that you're not having to worry about the administrative side of things anymore.
That's right. Yeah.
Hey, what do you expect of the conference race, though? As it were to play out, you've got a game lead on Wartburg and Luther, obviously, but I've known this conference to be kind of sneaky sometimes. What are you expecting this year?
Well, it is. It's a conference that if you're not ready to play somebody and just because their record isn't as good, they'll sneak up and bite you. So, I think besides ourselves, I think Wartburg, Loris, as you said, Luther's 3-1 right now in conference. There's a lot of teams that can beat anybody. So I expect it to come down to the last couple games again to see who will get the number 1 seed for the tournament.
Well, as always, I appreciate the insight. Haven't gotten you on as much as we probably should have, but we'll work on that. Pretty impressed with the start. Some of the numbers that jump off the screen certainly have been impressive, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you guys play the season out. I'm really intrigued, and I congratulate you guys and good luck with all the COVID stuff. As always, we give the guests the final word, though. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
Well, Dave, it's like you said earlier. It's been a few years since I've talked with you, and it's good to be back. And I'm telling you, I think this Division III season is going to be exciting. I hope we continue to have the games and get into the championship with the NCAA as far as finishing out the season. I think it's going to be a year that, there's so many great teams, and Brian's team at Hope is probably the one everybody is shooting for right now. But it'll be fun to follow how it all plays out.
Yeah, and I'm certainly glad to see you guys somewhat back in the mix. So thanks for taking the time. Stay safe out there, whether it's on the road recruiting or scouting or just staying away from COVID. Good luck the rest of the way. We'll look forward to touching base with the Storm later on.
Appreciate it, Dave.
Absolutely. He's Brian Niemuth joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline. Appreciate him taking the time. Apparently my audio wasn't there, folks. We'll try that one again. I don't know where we left off. We'll just say this much. Good to see Simpson back up and running and playing well. Appreciate Coach taking the time to join us. We will take a break, come back. Kevin Apple join us from Williams, talk men's basketball with us. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the NABC studios. More after this.
This is why we love sports. It's in the way they play, free from the pressures and all the money talk. Playing for simply the love of the game, where everyone has a shot at their definition of success on and off the field. This is what we love about sports, and what we can still love about college sports.
It's on us. It's on all of us. And it's time to act now.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. Thanks to all our guests so far, Juli Fulks and Brian Niemuth, for joining us on the show. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can also join us on Facebook, where we're simulcasting the show, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Also simulcasting the show on YouTube, youtube.com/Hoopsville. Daryl Duncan saying, I finally get to catch you live for once. Hello from the chilly Northwest. Thank you, Daryl. And he says the studio looks good. Well, good. We're trying to make it even look better. Clean up some of the mess that's still back there. And we got a few new things to hang up as well. So if anybody wants to send us stuff, we'll find a hole for it. And in some of the more tweaks, you get to see more of the studio than just this one camera shot. But all in the works. All right, so we'll switch men's basketball now and talk Williams, talk NESCAC, which we haven't really talked a lot about in terms of getting them on the show to talk about the NESCAC. As you probably have heard in the top 25 conversations I've had with Ryan Scott and Bob Quillman and others, I've been a little leery to vote for NESCAC teams because I just don't know. The COVID year threw me for a lurch, and I know NESCAC teams don't necessarily get to hold on to a lot of players to come back for a 5th year or a 6th year for that matter. But Williams is playing well, admittedly. Undefeated, ranked 17th in the top 25. So about time we get some answers, right? So join us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline. It's Kevin App of the Williams Eafs men's basketball team. First and foremost, sir, thanks for taking the time. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Dave. Yeah, doing well. Excited for hopefully get 2022 going sooner than later.
Yes. We'll talk a little bit about the hiccups and the bumps and the hurdles that you guys have faced in the last few days and few weeks and such. But I want to talk a little bit about the fact that, again, the NESCAC didn't play last year. A lot of teams kind of sat on the sideline and couldn't do much, while other teams at least tried to play. Obviously not a majority of Division III. Help me understand something. Is it accurate to say that our impression of the NESCAC also is that you lost the players in that time as well, because they can't come back necessarily to a Williams or an Amherst for a 5th year? And so in some ways, you guys all lost a good chunk of some really good basketball teams, and we're starting this year a little bit from an unknown position.
It really was very circumstantial, school by school. I know some schools in the league did lose a lot of kind of their upperclassmen. We were pretty fortunate that most of our team, 12 of our 15 on the roster last year decided to take some academic time off.
Gotcha.
And, we're able to kind of hold their, I guess, place in their class. So, really every school was different. Every decision was personal. And it really just kind of came down to those two circumstances. So, you had the extremes where Middlebury lost, just about their whole senior class from last year that was returning a great group to, some in the league lost a couple in the class and not all of them. And we were lucky to not graduate anybody, some movement class-wise, but, really just kind of depended upon the school. Some schools were able to play a little bit more. We had, in the fall semester, 2 on campus doing individual workouts and 1 on campus in the spring doing individual workouts.
Wow.
So he was the happiest guy to have some teammates in the first practice.
Yeah. On the flip of that, I also heard from a lot of coaches at the beginning of the year saying, we're going to see maybe some ugly basketball or at least some inconsistent basketball. We already know at Division III, you can't work with the student athletes year round. There's pluses for that. There's good reason for that. You just explained you had 3 students total on campus the entire last year. So there's a lot of guys you didn't get to work with necessarily one-on-one in any general sense or even get to see. How hard was it to get everybody back on page? Obviously 9-0 is a good start to show that you guys did well, but how hard was it to get everybody kind of back in sync to the Williams way?
We spent a lot of time on Zooms and, I give our guys credit last year when they were not on campus, they found ways to spend a lot of time together in different capacities. But yeah, the relationship part was the part we really had to, kind of just get back used to. Everybody being in the same place, not just doing what you want when you want. That stuff affected other people. But yeah, Declan Porter, our first year, he committed in April of 2020, and I first met him when in person when he moved to campus this fall, which is crazy. So, but the one difference and good thing for us this year was the NESCAC allowed us to start practice October 15th instead of waiting until November 1st.
Kind of strange.
So after that year off, getting in the gym a little earlier allowed us to, kind of coach a little bit slower and kind of ramp things up for that first game. So that definitely helped with this year in particular. And, we had a group that had a lot of experience a lot of their first year experience was, the 2019-2020 year. So, they're a year and a half older physically, but still kind of have that experience factor of, getting their feet wet that year. So I think all those factors kind of allowed us to, kind of play, solid basketball right away.
What's interesting is you talk about all those nuances and guys not around, but being able to catch up. Do you think the NESCAC will allow you now to start on the 15th, or was that just a one-off because of COVID?
It's above my pay grade.
Yeah, I realize. I figured I'd take a shot at it.
No, I do think the one thing, the one benefit coming out of COVID is I think people have acknowledged just the real mental, emotional, physical aspect of athletics and the role that plays in the students' lives and the campus lives. So, we're hopeful that we approached it in the right way, where we showed that we can do it with facilities and staffing, and not take away from their academics, and actually give them more flexibility in those realms than kind of the rush start of November 1st. So. We'll see. We talked a little bit about that as a group when we started October 15th of, the reasons we were doing it and what we were trying to show, and how we were trying to kind of communicate it to other people, on campus.
If the rest of the division can do it, right? Again, 9-0 start. SUNY Oneonta was your first game on November 16th, won that one in overtime, then got past Curry, Salem State, Mass College, all at home. Traveled to SUNY Delhi, then got past Worcester State, Wesleyan in conference. Not in conference. Yeah, it's the little 3-game. Union, Springfield, and then to what we'll talk about in a minute. How did you feel you started in those first 9? Was it how you expected? Was it smooth? Could you have played better? I mean, 6-1 half dozen, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, the first game against Oneonta, I mean, there's 633 days between competitions. So
you counted?
There's some nerves for sure in that one, but against a good kind of, upperclassmen physical team that played great and made shots and had a few games under them. So it was nice to get that one. And I think our guys approached that year or that first semester too. 2019, 2020, we lost to Union, Springfield, and Oneonta. So they wanted to kind of, right the ship on those games. But I thought we played well. Definitely had some really good stretches of great basketball. Never really felt we put the whole 40 minutes together, but that was kind of what the first semester is always about, of really kind of learning about ourselves as a group, what's working, what's not working, solidifying roles. And I think we did a phenomenal job of those aspects, and won in different ways. We didn't shoot great against Worcester State, still found a way to buckle down defensively and win. Springfield seemed to make every three in the second half, and still we would find a way to win on the road. We found ourselves down 17 at Wesleyan in the first half, and just kind of stuck with it and stayed connected. And we're down 3 in our first game and could have panicked, worried about losing, and guys made play after play, held I think only on a scoreless for the last 10 minutes of kind of regulation and overtime. So I think we learned a lot about ourselves as a group, and had our own. Alex Stoddard was one of the few guys that played in every game 2 years ago, and after the first game we lose him for the semester, and wake up one morning, Cole Prout-Smith can't play against Union, and different guys stepped up, and all the stuff you want to see in the first semester for sure.
Yeah, better in the first than in the last few games for sure. Mental note on the Wesleyan game, they had you 40-33 at halftime. You held them to 20 in the second half while scoring 36. It was a flip there. Wesleyan looks like they're a pretty good team. Obviously, a barn burner with your rival in Amherst. Did that game give you a sense of what to expect in the conference?
That is what we expect.
Yeah. It's a rival, I realize.
Yeah, Coach Riley does a great job. They're long, they're physical, they're athletic. I think the pace they played at in the first half. I said after that game, it's really hard to simulate in practice, and they just kind of blitzed us, and I learned a lot about our group, and that they kind of enjoyed it. They
really
kind of bounced right back and said, we're here to compete, and let's find a way, and made some big plays and buckled down. But it's I think everyone knew Wesleyan. They returned a lot. They have a lot of upperclassmen that have played a lot over their career right now, and have good balance to them. So that's always a great barometer for us. Are we ready for the physicality and athleticism in our league?
We'll get to the league in a second more. You kind of bring up, are you ready for the physicality and such? And one of the knocks that the conference has taken is the non-conference schedule. And listen, that I don't want to hem and haw on that, but I am curious, what is your mentality when it does come to that scheduling? Are you, by the way, should point out, and we'll talk about it in a minute, you obviously had Yeshiva on the schedule this season as well. So it's not like you're not shying away from some tough opponents, but what is the mentality from your perspective? How do you try and prepare for conference play in your non-conference scheduling?
You win or lose, and you learn about your team. The funny thing about scheduling is, like, we play Yeshiva 3 years, and the first 2 times we beat them, you guys say we don't have a good schedule, and then so it's always kind of funny. Last time I was on the show, we were 15-0. We beat teams that the next year we were lost to, and 1 year it's a bad schedule, 1 year it's a good schedule. So always ironic, but for a lot of us, scheduling is based on distance, regional rivalries, and academic calendars. That's really it. We're trying to limit time away from campus for our student athletes, and who can play on those dates. So that's
why I asked, because some are just jet setting and finding places to go play and taking all comers, but maybe they don't have, as you point out, the mentality of trying not to be away from the campus too much. And so that's why I wanted that question is there's that aspect. Are you looking for particular teams that you know will prep you for the conference? Maybe you're not. And everybody's different. And so that's kind of why the genesis of the question. I was kind of curious, the crux of it.
Every team should prepare you for the next game, and but we have our model, and it's based on the academics. And then we travel to a region where we got guys on the team. That's why we were going to Virginia. We're supposed to go to Virginia this year because we have 4 North Carolina, 2 DC, and then we've been out to California, been out to Ohio. So it's a lot of that's based on kind of who we have on our roster. But really for us, the times we can travel are really that winter break, and after that, besides that, it's roughly a 2.5 hour radius for us.
Got it. At least you're in Western Mass. That's a little easier to pull off some of those games. And I can't even see what you're supposed to, because there's so many changes to the schedule. But to your point, you're supposed to be down at the W&L tournament, which obviously featured W&L. I can't remember who else, unfortunately. You replaced that with maybe going to the Utica Classic, where you're going to play SUNY Poly and Utica. That fell through. Again, you had the game against Yeshiva. You guys in the last couple of weeks, and you and I have been chatting on the side, have had constant changes. And I remember one of your messages to me was, I just want to get to tomorrow, because then tomorrow I'll know what tomorrow is. How difficult has it been to have a schedule that is just absolutely blown up on you basically in a span of 2 weeks?
Last week was a long week. The 27th, we were anticipating being on a bus to Virginia. We pushed it to the 28th just to be a little safer. Then we decided not to do that trip and, found a closer trip. And 29th, we thought we were going to Utica, didn't get on the bus to Utica. 30th, thought we were going back to Utica, didn't get on the bus. Then we shut down practice for a few days. So, it was just kind of a roller coaster week in all aspects. And, but it's all, protocol, just making sure we had the right kind of safety and protocols for our student athletes. And it's just kind of the perfect storm of, winter break, returning to campus, new coronavirus variant that, we just wanted to take a lot of the campuses and schools, I think, really just wanted to take some time and make sure that, the protocols that worked really well in, November and December were still the right kind of rules and protocols to follow. And it was hard to do that, at that time of where, during break and, returning to campus from all over the country. So it was good, but, now we're, hoping to start an SCAC tomorrow.
You technically lost 3 games, though we saw 5 because of all the rearranging. They're still listed as postponed. Do you hope to make those up despite what the conference schedule could or could not allow?
We hope to compete as often as we can.
Yeah.
Our league gives us 24, which is already one less. So we don't want to sacrifice too many. So, student athletes, that's what they're doing it for, to get out and compete against somebody else. So we'll do our best to, schedule or reschedule, whatever games we have to when we have to, and, get as creative as we need to. So who they are when they are, as I said, we're still day by day. Last week we were hour to hour. We're back to day by day. We're hoping to get to,
so it's improving.
Get to week to week sometime soon.
It's improving. Quickly about the conference, I've been wanting to talk about your individual teams. We'll get to them in just a second. I wanted to ask, the other thing that's changed a lot since those 633 days, as you pointed out, is there's been some coaching changes. Amherst has changed the coach. Dave Hickson retired since you guys last played. Bowdoin and Tufts. I swear I'm missing somebody who also may have changed coaches. And interestingly enough, some of those are your toughest opponents as well. How you probably haven't even had a chance yet to understand how that changes a scout, or how that changes matchups, or how that may change how you approach those opponents, I'm assuming.
It'll be, different, Coach Sears at Amherst, we played him at Montclair State a few years ago. I know Coach Linton, he, we both, worked at Army West Point. I know some people that know Coach Lloyd, so it's great people entering the league, and they're going to build their programs and do a great job. It's part of like, all right, well, let's throw out all the old scouting reports and enjoy that aspect of it. Enjoy that maybe they won't guard us the same way for the 8th year in a row or whatever. But no, that'll be another kind of change. Exciting part of the league. And I guess the interesting part was two of the Amherst and Tufts at least were older teams.
True.
Coming back to this year, on paper, and but then you have a coaching change, and it can change that dynamic a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's talk about your squad a little bit here. You've got really, I consider it 5 guys in double figures because you got 2 in the 9-point range that could easily be at 10 with a good game. You're led by Cole Prowett-Smith at 16 points a game, Nate Karen at 13, Declan Porter, at 10 points a game, Spencer Spivey at 9.5. I mentioned Alex Stoddard. He had 9 points in his first game. You mentioned first semester loss, hopefully coming back. Tell me a little bit about that core, but then tell me about the bigger group, because one thing that jumps out at me, and you said it, you're playing a lot of guys. This isn't an 8-man rotation necessarily. You're going 10, 12, pretty deep in the bench. But tell me a little bit about that core group at the start.
Yeah, they've done a great job. I mean, Cole, Proud-Smith, Spencer Spivey, and Nate Karen. They got a lot of experience 2 years ago, along with Javon Jones. They were kind of part of our core, but they were really getting their first taste of it as first years and sophomores 2 years ago. And they worked really hard while they were away from campus. They're, stronger, leaner, whatever they needed to do to, put themselves in position to, be more successful consistently. And, I think what our group's done well is they know each other well. They know what each other does well, and they've been putting each other in those positions. And they've each kind of had their moments. And I think when that happens early in the season, it allows everybody to kind of relax a little bit. It doesn't have to be, one guy every game that if he doesn't perform, we get tense and feel like we won't be successful. The first half against Wesleyan, Nate carried us. Nate Karen had 19 points in the first half just to, kind of keep us afloat. And Cole's had some big games. Declan Porter had 6 threes against Springfield. So, we've been playing, right around 10 a game. That's what we go into it. We feel our depth is, one of our advantages, and that shows itself in practice and in games. And some games our bench has really given us a spark and played great. Mark Taylor coming back from some pretty major injuries and having a great campaign so far. And they've really kind of changed the tempo certain games, and then other games our starters have really just been playing efficient high-level basketball as well.
The roster, obviously a mix of upperclassmen and underclassmen. I think we've talked about this before. Obviously, a lot of the prep school in New England mixed with a lot of that cross-country dynamic that you guys have. I think I gave you guys a hard time about the prep schools because I didn't see one on there. I'll just say this now. Your MVP is clearly Brandon Ruffley. I only say that because he went to the Salisbury School. It's the best school in the land. It really is. And I'm glad somebody went north from Salisbury to find Williams. Oh, they do that all the time, but I mean for athletics. Tongue in cheek, I'm a Salisbury grad. But that mix is interesting to me because you go around the country and find guys in regular high schools, but you also find that prep school, that traditional New England prep school student athlete too. How does that dynamic mix? And I'm not saying it's different. I'm just trying to see how that comes together in the different styles and maybe different mentalities of the player coming in.
It just makes them a little older. It's never hurts, but a lot of when we have guys from prep school, there's been some rosters we've had where we really haven't had, that many do the 5th-year PG option. A lot of times though, they're young men that we actually recruited when they were seniors in high school. They just decided to do the 5th year, and we have another year of relationship with them. Some years that's the case, some years not, but there was a by the book, this is going to happen in recruiting every year, I'd be happy for it. But yeah, it really just depends upon the year. It depends upon the kid. And but a lot of the ones that end up at the prep schools and then at Williams, we had a relationship with them more often than not in high school.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, I was the one who didn't do the PG, so I hadn't considered that. I saw a lot of PGs. Obviously, a lot of them went to the military schools, especially. I didn't consider that fact, and it's almost, I don't want to say it's become more normal, but it's become certainly more common to see a PG year to either get academics in better shape or to get more athletic experience. I mean, we talked about Duncan Robinson. Didn't he do a PG year, or he did something along those lines?
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks. I that dynamic I wasn't thinking about at the time. I could keep talking to you forever, but I gotta let you go. I know you got better things to do than chat with me. Quick question: Dave Paulson is no longer coaching. Has he been lurking around Williams? Has he tried to get into a practice or two and run things?
We've had some great guest speakers to the team. I can say that. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's commentating and helping other programs out, even though I offered him lucrative consulting contract.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
that's awesome. That's great. I didn't realize that little twist, but that's very cool.
Coach Paulson and Coach Maker, I got just some phenomenal resources, and they're the ones that make my job a lot easier with the culture in place already.
Yeah, no, that's true. I was going to say one interesting thing about you. You've been there for what? This is your 8th year?
My 8th. Yeah.
Which is diabolical to me because it feels like maybe you had just gotten there, and Williams has had some turnover. Not that Paulson and Maker weren't there for good chunks of time, but I feel like you've really made this your home.
Yeah, I mean, that was the plan when they were crazy enough to offer me the job, and no, I mean it's a great place, a great school, just a fun league to work in, and then Division III athletics. It's as I said, I think the one thing that hopefully comes out of this pandemic that we can all remember is just how valuable this experience can be for young men and women to compete, work hard together, learn how to work as a team, and just the joy and happiness it can bring to our communities too. I think that was our first home football game this year at Williams. To see the community alive again was just everybody had a smile on their face, and we're trying to do that now through the winter as well, and we're going to do our best. Well,
good luck. I know conference play again starts with Hamilton and Amherst this weekend. I know that's a big chore ahead of you guys, but I know it'll be just fun to compete. Good luck the rest of the way. Appreciate you coming on and humoring us, as it were. As always, we give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
No, again, just thank you. Thank you, to everything you guys do to promote, our schools and our leagues and this sport. It's a valuable asset for all of us and our fans, and we really appreciate it. And then, we'll get through this latest variant and hopefully have, as exciting a year as ever.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for the time. Really do appreciate it. Enjoy the winter up there as well. And I kind of do miss a winter in the Berkshires. Take care of yourself, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Dave.
Kevin App joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline. Appreciate him taking the time. I think we'll have to send him a note, just however he wants me to talk about the season and the scheduling. I'll do it for him. I mean, he's got a point. Maybe we're all over the place in our reasonings for scheduling. We'll take a break. When we come back, joined by a couple of assistant commissioners, talk about the craziness that is scheduling or the rules in conferences and how everything's changing. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. Back with more after this.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that. A lot more.
Sure, the game is important. But as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. And in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. Running a little late. Wait, we always run a little late. Great conversation so far tonight. Really appreciate it. Quick side note, chatted with Kevin App at the end of that segment. I was curious, does Duncan Robinson still stay in touch with that Williams program? I was glad to hear that he does and actually does some things for them every once in a while. That's great to hear for the multi-millionaire that is an NBA player now. Talk about absolutely crazy. And I will always put on my resume that I was part of the broadcast of his last 4 games in Division III. I got to do something for me off of his coattails, and that's how it's going to be. When things settle down in the summer, we've always wanted to do kind of a D3 in the Pros podcast, and hopefully we'll do that in the summer. We'll get Duncan Robinson and some others like Popovich and stuff on if we can pull the right strings, get them on and talk about it a little bit. But that's our hope for the summer. All right, let's switch gears. We were talking at the top of the show about how challenging it is with the moving target that has become Omicron, or you name it. I added a letter there for a second. And just, some conferences went in saying, hey, we're going to have games that if you're not COVID ready to play, it's going to go down as a forfeit. If you don't have enough players, it's a forfeit. And some others went, well, we're going to take a different tack. And it's all over the place. And then it's been blown up because basically this variant has blown it up. So joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline to talk about this are 2 assistant commissioners, because commissioners are just too busy, right, people? To talk about all this. It's our friend Stacy Ledoux from the Heartland Collegiate Athletic Conference, and it's our good friend James Wagner from the CSAC. And branded, you two, very well done, can I just say. Well done on the brands. First and foremost, let me just ask it this way. How insane has it been when it feels like, at least at the end of the fall, everyone had kind of gotten into the routine of how COVID would be this year? And as I have jokingly said on this air a number of times, and I'll say it again, Omicron has basically said, hold my beer. Bikes, we'll go ahead and let you start.
Well, Dave, to put how crazy this has been, at 1:30 this afternoon, I'd left to go to a conference game, Karen and Rosemont for men's basketball.
Yeah.
On my 40-minute drive from Limerick to Langhorne, 2 other games on the men's side were postponed in the span of 40 minutes.
Wow.
And this was after I lost all of our women's games. We had 7 games slated for the docket tonight. We played 1.
Wow.
This is change, and this had changed so quick in a span of 40 minutes. And it is now, I have games now postponed for Saturday. I have teams that have now gone into COVID protocol as of today. One game was scheduled to play at 5 o'clock. It was postponed at 1:45. Another game was supposed to be played at 7:30, was postponed at 2:15. So it has been absolutely crazy in the last week or so as schools start to come back to campus. We have one institution in our conference that said, you're not coming back until January 9th. so that, and let's say more postponement. So it's been very fluid, and with schools in 3 different states with 3 different guidelines, it's been a little bit of a challenge right now. But we were able to get 1 game in, so at least we got that. We got the 1 game in, which is a pretty good game. So now it's just been absolutely off the wall tracking these changes.
Stacey, has it been as? I mean, I noticed a lot of cancellations and postponements in the HCAC as well. Maybe not to the tune of what WAGS is dealing with, but it's got to be just as challenging out where you are.
Yeah, like you said, we kind of felt like we got our feet under us. We figured this COVID thing out, and then as we've done all along with COVID, now we're playing out of another playbook. We had to make it up as we went last time, and now we're trying to figure it out as we go here. But yeah, luckily we haven't had it to the extent that it sounds like WAGS has seen at the CSAC, but we're definitely feeling the impacts of Omicron. And we actually had a meeting with our athletic directors yesterday, and we put the question out there: do we want to just push pause for 2 weeks, see if we can get this thing under control, and then re-go? But AD said, if we can play, we want to play, because who knows where this thing will be in 2 weeks. We could push pause for 2 weeks and the country could be even in worse shape. So the ADs are wanting to play if we can play, and for our student athletes' sake, we're trying to do it as safely as possible.
Yeah, I can certainly understand that idea of, listen, if it's possible to play, let's do that. I am curious though, if you can humor me, put the pause on those 2 weeks, would those games in that idea be just lost, or were you going to try and find ways to make those games up somehow?
Well, in a perfect world, we said, what if we could get the NCAA to delay the championship 2 weeks? That's never going to happen.
I had a feeling we might walk down that road. Okay.
So we were just honestly throwing out the idea to see if it even had legs, if we could even go anywhere with it. And there was just no appetite for it from the get-go, because some of our teams are doing everything they can. They're vaccinated, they're testing, they're doing everything, and they're still able to play, and they want to play. So it didn't really, and again, from a conference office, it's easy for us to say, hey, let's push pause for 2 weeks. We're not the ones on campus with student athletes who are itching to play and want to be active. So it's easy for us to throw out these ideas and then hear quickly from the campus side of things, no, that's not going to work.
And yeah, I mean, obviously, a pause at other times was something that we all thought was a great idea. And yeah, you're right. Whether we could move the NCAA tournaments 2 weeks, that's a whole nother beast. I'll come back to what else you guys talked about, Stacey, at that meeting in a minute. But Wags, I want to come to you. You're one of those conferences, and we're seeing a lot of variants of this too. You're one of those conferences that has said, listen, if we have a postponement, we'll let you all try and figure out if you can get it played. There's other conferences, again, we'll talk about in a minute, that's been either a forfeiture or whatever the case may be. What was the mentality with just go ahead and schedule it if you can? Is it because proximity is okay? Were there other factors that put you guys in that headspace?
I think, Dave, the reason we kind of backpedal a little bit, not backpedal, but kind of reversed our decision on the forfeits was that we do have time to play these games. We've had this policy in effect since we restarted in March. We've had to use it twice across spring, fall, and winter because we had just plain ran out of time. And it was one contest that we just said we couldn't play. I think now that you've seen the reversals in the Big East, you've seen the reversals in the ACC. I know the MAC is still going forward with their forfeits. We are of the fact that we can try to reschedule these games. Now, I will tell you that I think as our conference will revisit, as every conference will revisit this in 2 weeks as we get closer to the end of January, where we stand. Are we too far down the rabbit hole to make these games up? What's the best way we can do it? My concern is I have some schools with very small rosters. And to tell a school that you're going to play 10 games in 15 days or 10 games in 17 days is not safe. Not safe from a COVID standpoint, but not safe from just a health and well-being standpoint. And also, it's not a good experience for the student athletes. At the end of the day, Our jobs are to provide the student athletes with the best experience we can do possible. I think our student athletes have been very resilient. They've been great. They do want to play. Yeah, the forfeit is only for a last ditch look. We're out of time. We're bumped up again our conference tournament. We had to do it in softball. We had to do it in women's soccer, or I think we did men's soccer. So we backpedaled in basketball. We will try our best. The proximity, none of our schools are more than 3 hours away from each other. It's just that let's see where we're at and see if we can reschedule these games. And we don't want teams playing 4 times a week in February. We just don't.
Oh, makes sense. Stacy, you guys in the HCAC, kind of the same as the OAC. I'm trying to think of some others off the top of my head that had basically forfeiture plans in place. And to be fair, those plans were put in place even as far back as August because you wanted to make sure teams were taking the vaccination rules and opportunities seriously. It wasn't that you wanted to punish anybody, and we didn't expect Omicron to kind of blow vaccinations out of the water. Again, people are fine in the vaccinations. They may be sick, but it's about a hospitalization thing. But in other variants, it wasn't really much of a factor. Am I saying that right? Was that kind of where the headspace on that was?
Yeah, that was definitely one of the reasons that the administration voted for the forfeiture policy was to encourage individuals to get vaccinated so that we could play. And again, you stated it correctly. We made that decision in August when it seemed like the vaccines were going to be effective and were going to help contests be able to happen. Again, we're playing out of a different playbook now, and Omicron doesn't seem to care about if you're vaccinated or not. And I had my physical yesterday. I was talking to my doctor. There's another variant out of France right now that doesn't seem to be responding to the vaccine at all. So
I'm sorry, Stacey, where's your mute button? No, go ahead.
I know. I know. So we've had to pivot, and we'll continue to do so in order to make the best decisions for our student athletes. And like James said, our job is to give the best experience to our student athletes. And you can argue on any side of the coin what that is in this environment. Is rescheduling the best experience for our student athletes when they're then missing class time and they're then having to, scramble this, that, and the other? Or is the best experience for our student athletes to give them as many games as possible? I mean, you can argue any side of it, and there's no right or wrong answer. And we're just trying to navigate and find what that best answer is. There's no one answer, but the best path is forward to provide for our student athletes the best experience that we can.
And this is on top of retention of student athletes. This is on top of keeping schools open. Obviously, in the HCAC, you've got a lot of higher end tech, like a Rose Holman, all them. They kind of have a nuance about them that maybe makes them a little bit more bulletproof. But Wags, you're in a conference that has a bunch of schools that might be holding on to a thread. So there's so many other dynamics that the schools themselves are more concerned about, not to mention their communities and their campuses. And I mean, this could go forever. Stacy, back to your meeting yesterday, you guys changed your policy. You were in that forfeit policy, and as we were talking to Juli Fulks earlier, now you're just okay, it didn't get played. They can make it up now, or is it still off and you're just not going to, quote unquote, punish the team?
So the vote that the administration took yesterday was to eliminate the forfeit implication, and the game will be considered a no contest. They also put in place a number of 7. If a team has 7 healthy players, then they are expected to play the contest unless otherwise dictated by a team physician. We had one of our teams that had 7, but their team physician said they couldn't play because the spread was so quick that they needed to pause. So we have that parameter in place right now. We were purposefully silent on whether or not teams could reschedule. To allow teams to reschedule. An AD, a coach, can go out and schedule anyone in the conference, anyone out of the conference if they have a game canceled out from under them, so that they can get games in. But those, if they're against a conference opponent, will not count towards the conference standings. We didn't want to put our teams that are outliers. We've got some teams that have 5-hour drives. We didn't want to put those outlier teams in a position where no one would want to reschedule them
Sure.
because they didn't want to make that trip, or we didn't want to put, teams that might, you talked to Juli tonight, they're ranked number 4 in the country right now. If I'm a coach, I'm probably not scrambling to reschedule them if they're 5 hours away and they're going to kick my tail when I go down there.
Fair.
So we wanted to put those, we wanted to leave the option for teams to reschedule and do that as they saw fit, so they could play as much as possible. But those games obviously won't have implications on our standings.
Quickly, I realized that the forfeiture was kind of okay, we at least need to understand where the standings will be and how we're going to figure out the tournament. I can't remember. Does everybody make the HCAC tournament?
We have traditionally had a 6-team tournament. Last year, we did do a 10-team tournament, and it was a complete blind draw. So we had all 10 teams get in because we knew there would be cancellations. But that was a one-time thing. We open the floor for that conversation again this year. Do we want to expand the tournament back to 10 teams? There was not an appetite for that. So we are going to remain at a 6-team tournament and figure out the standings.
Well, then it begs the question, because if you came back to me and said, yeah, we're going to expand to 10, maybe it's a blind draw, maybe it's not, maybe the top 4 are how they're ranked and the rest, whatever. We can go through that a million ways. I would have understood it, but to say that there's no appetite, how are you as a conference then going to be able to determine who those 6 teams are, especially as more games are lost? That seems like a real big challenge to not, unfortunately, leave someone out who maybe would argue they deserve to be in.
For sure. We talked about having a minimum number of games that teams had to play, and an AD rightfully so pointed out, well, if we have a minimum number of games and our number 4 team in the country doesn't meet that minimum, we're going to hold them out of our tournament because they didn't hit that minimum. No.
Yeah.
Luckily, Dave, we're not the only conference in the country, and so we're going to lean on some of our counterparts to figure this out. There's some brighter brains out there than myself that can crunch numbers. There's not going to be a perfect answer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's going to be an imbalance in inequity in games, but we're going to have to, and in the next week, we're going to put on paper how we're going to determine seeding, because we need to do it sooner than later, because games are going to start to have implications on those,
and Jay Jones
the final standings.
Jay Jones left the NCAA headquarters, I thought maybe for a little bit of an easier gig. I think he walked himself straight into a hornet's nest. Wags, from your perspective, how are you guys tackling what could be the postseason?
We're starting to have those conversations, Marie and I. Obviously, Marie started in October, so she started at the right point. She started, and then this started to come around. I can tell you our ADs are going to meet next week. We meet bi-weekly. Now the convention is going to be a little different because some of them are going to be virtual and some of them are going to be in Indy. So we're going to tackle that a little differently. For me, in the world of WAGs, is I would love to do, if we have to do a all-comers tournament where we put all our teams in, we can do it. However, with 10 women's teams, we need to do this so that we don't play 4 days in a row.
Yeah.
Again, it's the health and safety. And honestly, Dave, you and I talked today, and I'm sure Stacy probably feels the same way. If this thing doesn't die, hopefully this thing dies down. If it doesn't die down, are we going to end up where we were in 2020 or in 2021? How are we going to get this tournament off the ground? With different regulations, and, there are schools right now in my conference. There are 3 of them, actually 4 of them, that said no spectators. It's been always been a hot button issue. And listen, I know people get upset. I know people don't like it, but the institutions make these decisions to protect their campuses. I always say, I follow guidance from Johns Hopkins. If Johns Hopkins, the nation's most preeminent research university, says something, you might want to listen. People are upset that here in Philadelphia, we have a vaccination policy, whereas Temple now, you check your vaccination card. To go into the Wells Fargo Center, you have to you show your vaccination card. Penn just said no fans, period. Now, we have, obviously I'll go to Division I with the Big Five. You have Temple, you have LaSalle, you have St. Joe's, Penn in the city. You have Villanova, which is outside the city. However, they do play some games at the Wells Fargo Center. Right. They don't have a vaccination requirement. at Villanova right now. But when they go play Butler or they go play UConn or they go play, I think they play Xavier at the Wells Fargo Center, they're going to have to. I went to a hockey game in November in Boston. I had to show my vaccination card. No big deal. Here it is on my phone. Here's my ID. Done. I'm hoping we stem the tide now so that when we get to February, if we have an all-comers tournament, that, okay, people can come if you wear your mask and you sit in the stands and you're fine. We have some gyms that are very small that social distancing is next to impossible. It's what it is. But, at the end of the day, we have to make this tournament, if we're going to do the all-comers tournament, whether, like Stacey with the blind draw, how many games do we have? And again, we're still tied by the sports minimum of 18. They have not changed that as of yet. And it's, January 6th. Is the NCAA going to come down and say, okay, is 14 enough? Are they going to waive it? Getting to that 18, we had in our conference, I think everybody met their minimum, except in cross country, we had a handful of, and that was for different reasons because they didn't score. Now, that's really not a big deal. It's a waiver in cross country. It's okay. But the NCAA at some point, and I'm sure they're having discussions. We have great leadership at Division III with Louise and everybody, that they're having discussions right now. Do we waive the 18? If we waive the 18, it takes the pressure off. If they don't, then maybe the all-comers tournament becomes like, we play a week of games with seeds 5 through 10. And then out of that, we go with seeds 1 through 4. There's a lot of discussion right now, but I think we just keep track of the games that we're postponing. And then when we get through Omicron, when it dies down, especially supposedly when it's supposed to die down at the end of January, when students are fully back on campus, then maybe we can have, we can start to figure out what we're going to do to award our AQ.
We're going to ignore what Stacey had to say about France. I'm with you, Wags. I'm hoping by the end of January things die down.
Hey, I have another concern right now. Men's volleyball is supposed to start real soon.
Yeah,
and that's an indoor sport.
Yeah.
So and I have 7 schools, one of which I have an associate member in New York City. So with the vaccination requirement in New York City, one of our concerns is, well, if our student athletes aren't vaccinated and they go to this school in New York, are they going to be able to come in? And I was told the answer is no. So, there's other concerns, like if, I think a couple of weeks ago or a week ago when Illinois Wesleyan played Yeshiva, that was fantastic. That was a fantastic event, and what if we get, into the tournament and, there's Yeshiva hosts a pod or anything like that, and vaccination requirements, stuff like that. This stuff you got to think about, like, how are we going to pull this tournament off? I think we can do it, but, it's going to take a little bit of hard work, and I think we can all do it.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I hadn't even gotten to March. I feel like my view down the road at this point would start be looking at March. And I've already quickly said, let me just look the end of January. Let's just see. And now that games are getting postponed and canceled and all that, it's even more complicated. And by the way, we're in the middle of winter. There's winter weather that's going to throw curveballs on top of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
That I know stuff's already blown through where you've been, Stacey, and is heading our way for tonight. So I think it's already starting to hit. Obviously, you're 2 of 42 conferences.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably 42 solutions out there. How much, I know the convention is still on, the NCAA convention. There's a lot to be discussed when it comes to, the Constitution. I don't know, other Division III pressing matters, like whether we're going to have 6-team AQs or not. Stacey, I'll start with you just because Jay Jones being your commissioner maybe has a little bit better sense of this. How much does maybe this take over what are pressing matters to still be discussed at the convention?
This being
conferences are like, listen, we got to talk about how we're just going to play games tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or how we're going to have a tournament.
I mean, I definitely think it's still a question if we'll be in person in 2 weeks at convention as well.
Biggest convention in NCAA's, at least recent history. We might be virtual.
History. Yeah. For sure. And so, I mean, the city, the Heartland is located in Indianapolis, and so we're lucky to be in the NCAA's backyard. And the city is doing the best that it can. And it's hard to say, no, we're not going to have a convention when on Monday we're going to have thousands of fans on top of each other downtown for the NCAA Division III National Championship in football. So I know the NCAA has been very conservative and rightfully so, taking safe steps when it comes to the virus. So who knows if we'll be in person. But I mean, this is pressing. We have our student athletes who want answers now, who are wanting to play now, and unfortunately don't have the foresight for the convention and the Constitution and what major shifts could happen. We meet as a conference, and I think most conferences do in conjunction with the NCAA convention. So I think a lot of work will happen at that level. But again, if we're here or not in 2 weeks, stay tuned.
Fair. And right, the conferences meet, but I just feel like it's going to be like we need more time. And more pressing matters are going to get pushed to the side. But
I don't think that we have more time. I think this has to be decided now. It's do or die.
Right.
For Division III, for all the divisions. And bless all the people on the Constitutional Convention Committee. They've put in so much work, and I would just hate to see it be for naught. So I hope that everyone can have a square head on their shoulders. And I think, if anything, Division III folks have shown they can multitask. We have a fifth of the staff of some of our counterparts, and we all get it done.
Amazingly,
so don't worry, we'll get it done. But yeah, there's definitely a lot that could distract from the task at hand, without a doubt.
By the way, I just got an alert. I think Louise is asking Dan Dutcher to come back and work. Not sure if that's true.
He's coming as a guest, so maybe we can recruit him.
That's just to get him in the door.
Come across the front help.
Speaking of Jay, he watched the convention, the special convention in November at Jay's house because he didn't have access. So they got to watch it together. And it's fun to talk to Dan Dutcher because he just has all the historical context that no one else remembers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Luis is going to get him in the ropes and then go, and now you've been deputized. He got out just at the right time. Hey, I don't want to keep you guys longer. We could certainly talk about a lot of other aspects of this, but obviously it's ever changing. And so anything we talk about now by tomorrow could be a different topic of conversation. I certainly wish you all the best. I know it's a lot on the schools to get games done, but Stacy, as you and I were talking about earlier, it's going to be on you guys to try and figure out how to put those conference tournaments together when they are going to be anything but simplistic. So appreciate the time you guys gave me, especially last minute. Wags, I'll give you kind of the final word, then we'll give Stacy final word you want to share with those who are tuned in tonight.
Well, I think, for those who are tuned in, listen, we've been through this we've been through this since 2020. We've gotten through the first part. We've gotten through Delta. This is now Omicron, and we will get through this. To the student athletes, we are working as hard as we can to make sure you have a good experience. It obviously isn't the experience you had prior to 2020, but we are trying to give you your full season. To the parents, I know it's frustrating when schools close their doors for spectators, but you have everybody pretty much has live streams now, live video. We'll get through this, and the end game of this is to open back up in February and say, okay, COVID's still here, but you can come as long as you wear your mask and be okay. But I think we'll get through this. And like Stacey said, it is starting to get, the Division Ones have more time. They do, because the tournament's not going to start till mid-March. Unfortunately, unless they back ours up, which they probably won't, we need to figure this out soon. And there are commissioners, there are assistant commissioners, there's ADs, there's athletic trainers, physicians, everybody trying to figure this out. We'll get there. It's just going to be a little rocky, but we'll get there.
Stacey, your thoughts?
Well said, James. And for once, we're all on the same team, right? We're all trying to get games in. We're all trying to do this for our student athletes. And like James said, we have their best interests at heart, and we're trying to do the best thing. There's no one right thing, but we're trying to find the best path forward. so that we can give them the best student athlete experience possible. And James, you said it, whether that's closing the doors to fans for a short period of time, at least we're getting games in, at least we're doing the things that the student athletes need to make this stuff happen. And like you said, we'll get through it. We were one of the few conferences who last year played all of our sports in one semester. And
yeah, you were crazy.
You guys were crazy.
Yeah.
You and the ODAC, nuts.
We did it. And so we showed we can do it, and we will continue to fight forward and make it happen by whatever means necessary. And luckily in Division III, we're a big family. And we say it all the time in the Heartland, we have a phenomenal group of schools who are willing to work together to make it happen. And I think that is expanded into the larger Division III realm. You know, we're all one family, and we're all going to fight to get through this and hopefully come out better.
Yeah,
the
well
other
said.
side better for it.
Well said, both of you. Really appreciate the time you gave us the insight of you guys are tackling with and the changes that are always happening. So thanks very much. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. Try and get a break. I don't know if that's physically possible, and we'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Dave.
Thank you, Stacy. Thanks, James. I appreciate both of them coming on again from the Heartland Collegiate Athletic Conference where Stacy works. I didn't get a chance. I meant to do it at the end there. Stacy and I go back a ways. She was a student at Transylvania when I called NCAA tournament games at Transylvania. That's where Brandon Gulick joined me for a day. Stacy literally was my analyst. Oh, I don't remember. Was it? Well, at least one game, if not two. I know it wasn't three because the first game I did, I just wanted to get the broadcast out the door, and then Stacy joined me, but I don't remember the details. Anyway, she helped me a ton. She then went on to Rochester, gotten to know her through that, and now she's in Indianapolis there. So great to connect with her. And interesting enough, we had Transylvania on earlier in the show. All right, we're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, just a quick wrap-up. Get this done and dusted. A couple of notes, some news that's gone across Twitter and other places since we hit the air. So we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll just wrap things up here on Hoopsville.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor's Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
Why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville as we wrap things up. Just a few minutes left in the show. Checking to see if we've gotten any emails. We have not, nor any comments. Want to appreciate all those who did tune in. Saw this tweet while I was kind of scrolling along. We were talking about the new guidelines for fully vaccinated and quarantine and all that from the NCAA today. Saw this tweet from Penn State Altoona's men's basketball coach, McGreel. He said, took 7 players and myself to get a booster yesterday. And so that would have been Wednesday. I'm of the opinion, if you want to play, do what you're told. Kind of an interesting point there. He went on to say the rest of the guys are in the window of being considered fully vaxxed. So, coaches making the effort to make sure that their players are in a position to get fully vaccinated, get boosted, do whatever they need to make sure that they are able to play games. You got to do whatever you can, to say the least. And I congratulate Coach there on that thinking, and I congratulate the players on joining him in that mentality as well. Some other news that came across Twitter during the show. Let's see. Texas-Dallas at Hardin-Simmons has been canceled for Saturday. Texas-Dallas was canceled tonight, as you know, against McMurray, citing health and safety protocols. They've now canceled their games against Hardin-Simmons. Now, that says canceled. I'm not sure if it's canceled or postponed, to be honest. Unfortunately, we're learning quickly that canceled and postponed mean two different things in the grand scheme of things. Postponed means you have a plan to try and play, even if it means being canceled later. Canceled means there's no plan to play. Laterno and Hardin-Simmons men's basketball did play tonight. I believe Laterno got the win. Yeah, they did against number 22 Hardin-Simmons, 85-77. Saw a tweet from our friend Ryan Scott. It said, frustrating night for the home team, that being Hardin-Simmons. Never seemed to settle into rhythm for more than a couple of possessions at a time. I would not want to be in Hardin-Simmons' film review session tomorrow. Well, they may not even be in the film review since their game against Texas-Dallas isn't taking place. Other scores around men's basketball, Hardin-Simmons was playing Sul Ross in a game of Cliff Carroll playing his former team. We'll have to check to see what that score is. Bear with me here as we don't have it on our links. Hint, hint to SIDs out there. Give us some help. Put your links up. It's the 6-step to get to the link thing. Sul Ross leads Hardin-Simmons with under 5 minutes play in the first half, 35-32. So an interesting development there, but obviously still first half. Other games that are taking place, I'm just trying to see if anything jumps out at me. Franciscan leads W&J in men's basketball at halftime, 45-39. That's a conference game if memory serves. Concordia Moorhead leads St. Olaf 65-50 with 9 minutes left to go in that game. Scranton got past SUNY Cortland 90-58 in men's basketball action. That's somewhat interesting. Cortland, of course, 5-6 on the season. They've lost to Rochester, Ithaca, Oswego, Brockport, and Geneseo before losing to Scranton today. They've beaten Ithaca, Cobleskill, Fredonia, Elmira, and Houghton. So, Cortland maybe not having a tremendous season. A bunch of other games have been played. We just don't have any scores. Women's basketball action. There weren't any top 25s playing tonight. Johns Hopkins did defeat Dickinson in a game that was supposed to have been played yesterday, got postponed to today. They won that in overtime, 66-59. I know the Hopkins women started off well. They are 7-2 on the season with loss to Susquehanna at the start of the season, and then a loss to Gettysburg a few games back. That's pretty much it. There's some other games. Interesting. Finlandia defeated Superior women's basketball, 67-62 tonight. And again, a bunch of postponements and delays. So, interesting night. Appreciate our guests coming on. We got some interesting time ahead. I think Stacy and Wags did a real nice job of kind of putting things together for us, and I appreciate them coming on the show, especially last minute as they did, to talk about everything, especially from the conference's perspective. Really appreciate their time. I was told at some point during the Williams interview, our live video got out of sync, and that means even the archive got out of sync. I don't know what the reason is, except that I did get some alerts about some problems, but those alerts have disappeared. So there may have just been a streaming issue somewhere that we can't control. I apologize for that. I think we're back on sync, but it is what it is. Travis John says, can conferences scrap conference tournaments and give their AQ to the regular season winner? Obviously, hope it doesn't come to that. Yes, absolutely, Travis, they could. I apologize for just getting to that question. Yeah, they absolutely could scuttle the conference tournaments and give the AQ. Remember, the conferences are allowed to give the AQ to whoever they need to based on their conference rules and decisions. Remember, the UAA doesn't even have a conference tournament. They're the last conference in the entirety of the NCAA, all 3 divisions like that, the Ivy League being the second to last before they scuttled that and went to a tournament. They absolutely can give the AQ to a regular season tournament, regular season winner. In fact, technically, the regular season is the backup to the tournament should there be a problem with the tournament. There was one year, and I never remember this anymore. I thought this is how it played out, was going to play out. Maybe it was because I was watching the semifinals and it never got to this. But I believed in the SCAC, this SCAC. They one year were going to have a team that was a provisional Division III member in the championship game against basically the regular season top team. And obviously the provisional team would not have been allowed to go on to the NCAA tournament. So if they had won the conference tournament, the question became, well, who would go on? And the answer was already known, that they would give the AQ then to the team that had won the regular season. So essentially, if that had played out, and I think that's how it worked. I think I saw it in the semis. It didn't play out, so we never saw it in the championship. But if that had played out, the losing team, had it been not the provisional team, I think it was Trinity, Texas, in fact, that was the regular season winner. If they had lost the championship game, they still would have automatically qualified for the tournament because the conference would have given it to them. And we have talked about that with conference tournament games, this championship especially, has been postponed for weather or power issues or whatever, that at some point the NCAA is going to be like, you need to give us your AQ, and even if the game's not over. So yes, that is absolutely possible, Travis. A conference can decide, we're going to give it to a regular season. They may even decide, listen, we're going to get rid of the tournament to give everybody a chance to play a few more games with that in mind. It's not ideal, but it's certainly possible. I think I am of more of the thought that you go to an all-conference tournament to decide it. And that's why I'm a little surprised the HCAC wasn't of the mentality, at least at this time, to do just that like they did last year. And maybe it has to do with how many games have to be played that week. But to go to all 10 being automatically qualifying for the conference tournament versus just the top 6 with games being lost, I think it's interesting that they voted that down. But it doesn't mean it can't come back. But yeah, Mark, thanks for tuning in as well. Appreciate you taking the time. Going to sign off from there, folks. I appreciate our guests coming on the show. Juli Fulks from Transylvania, Brian Niemuth from Simpson, and of course, Kevin App from Williams. And again, thanks to Stacey Ledoux at Heartland Collegiate Athletic Conference and James Wags Wagner at the Colonial States Athletic Conference for coming on, especially last minute, to talk about everything. Thank you for tuning in and enjoying the show with us. We really appreciate that as well. We'll be back on the air, remember, Monday. We're no longer on Sundays. We're on Monday. Monday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time will be our next show. No idea, but I can tell you this. We finally figured out how we're probably going to break down the regions and how we're probably going to do guests and all that, and we'll debut that on Monday along with our top 25 double take. By the way, we are working on getting the panel together. I started to make headway on it, but just couldn't pull the trigger for tonight. Hopefully a week from tonight on Thursday's show, we'll debut our women's panel for the top 25 double take as well, so we can get their takes on things. Granted, the COVID news right now kind of taking precedent. With that in mind, we will sign off. I want to thank the sports information directors for their help, especially Dick Quinn and Justin Sweeney. I want to thank Emma so Dick Quinn's at Williams, Justin Sweeney's at Transylvania, and Emma is at Simpson. I want to thank all of them for coming on, for their help with putting this show on the air as well. And thank everybody, of course, at D3 Hoops, Blue Frame Technology, and of course, the NABC and WBCA for their support as well. We'll be back on the air Monday. I almost said Sunday again. Monday, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it, whether you're listening to the archive or maybe you were listening to the show live, or maybe you're listening to the podcast. Thank you nonetheless. Appreciate it. And we will look forward to talking to you on Monday night. If you want to talk Division III basketball, you've got to listen to Hoopsville. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a good night. Stay safe out there.